Hello, this video will give you a bit of a background of the ISBAR Handover tool and how it can be utilised in giving a clinical patient handover from the Post Aneasthesia Care Unit to the receiving ward nurse. In 2006, the World Health Organization identified communication breakdown during clinical handover as one of the top 5 issues negatively affecting patient safety. Transfer of patients from one professional or area of health service to another has been identified as a high-risk period where failure to relay critical information can lead to serious adverse events. In response to this, the Australian Commission on Safety and Quality in Healthcare commenced the National Clinical Handover Audit and Pilot Program aimed at improving clinical handover practices. The result is the Aussie Guide to Clinical Handover, which recommends the use of standardised tools to assist clinical handover, including the ISBAR Handover tool. The ISBAR is a mnemonic that stands for Introduction, Situation, Background, Assessments, and Recommendations and Referrals. The ISBAR mnemonic is designed to provide you with an easy-to-remember reference tool for structuring your handover. Apart from being an easily remembered mnemonic, the ISBAR tool is accessible in hard copy and as an application for computer or devices. I've got here a couple of examples to show you. This first form is a descriptive one to give you cues when formulating your handover. This next one is a type of form you can use to write out your handover in preparation for giving it verbally. The next few slides guide you through an app that's available from New South Wales Health on ISBAR. It's free to download, and as you'll see, it can come in very handy as it has variances for different specialties. So when you download the app, this is the home page that you first see, and then you will go into the contents page, and as you can see, it has different subjects that you can go into depending on which area you're working in. So today we're focusing on patient handover from the Post Aneasthesia Care Unit to the receiving ward nurse, so we're going to look at a surgical patient. So once you choose the surgical patient, then you can scroll through by tapping on the letters, and it'll give you cues for what kind of information you should be thinking about handing over for each letter, each category. So I is for introduction and identify. So identify yourself, your role, and also identify the patient. S is for situation, so you're wanting to think about the problems, the symptoms the patient's experiencing, and whether or not they are stable or unstable. B is for background, so the type of things you're going to think about in this letter is diagnoses, previous history and comorbidities, any medications and allergies if they have them, the reason why they're in hospital, and when they last ate or drank, but that's more for a pre-operative patient. So A is for assessment. With assessment, we're talking about vital signs, any other assessments, any clinical signs, any planned procedures, treatments and results, and orders, things like DVT prophylaxis, antibiotics, analgesia, fluids, and rates that are ordered. R is for recommendations. So these are recommendations for the ongoing care. You have to have clear timeframes and identify what is expected to happen next. It's also good to get confirmation that the handover and transfer of accountability of the patient has been accepted. So now I'd like to give you an example of handing over a patient from the PACU to the receiving ward nurse. So again, going through the mnemonic, I is for introduction. Hello, my name is Florence and I have Miss Jane Doe here to hand over to you. S is for situation. Ms. Doe is an 83-year-old and she has had a right DHS for repair of a fractured neck of femur under spinal anaesthetic with sedation. B is for background. Ms. Doe has had a history of hypertension and type 2 diabetes. She's hard of hearing and wears a hearing aid in her left ear. She has upper and lower full denture plates which she has in place. She normally lives with her son Joe, whose phone number is in the front page here of her notes. A is for assessments. Jane has been relatively stable here in recovery. She was initially hypertensive on arrival to theatre, but was very anxious and in pain. Now, with the spinal anaesthetic on board, her blood pressure is 100/60 and has been stable around there for the last 20 minutes or so. I've checked with the anaesthetist and she's happy with a systolic BP greater than 95 if Jane remains asymptomatic. Jane has a bromage of 2 with movement in her toes, and her dermatome has moved down from a T6 to a T4. She has a dressing on the right hip which has scant ooze visible under the dressing only, and her circobs are satisfactory with good peripheral perfusion and a strong pedal pulse. Jane is normothermic with a temperature of 36.5, and her blood sugar was checked on arrival to recovery and was 6.6. She has an IDC in situ which has drained 35 mL for the last hour. So now moving on to R for recommendations and referrals. The post-operative orders are for routine post-anaesthetic OBS, neurovascular OBS. She may eat and drink as tolerated. She's for 24 hours of IV antibiotics. She's for DVT prophylaxis of TEDS and daily Clexane, which can be administered tonight. And she's for a post-op X-ray and HB this afternoon. In regards to her pain management, she has ordered regular paracetamol with PRN endone and ondansetron in case of nausea. This is the second litre of IV therapy running, and it is to complete at a 12-hourly rate. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of information to cover, and that's for a relatively straightforward case. It is very useful to prepare for handover and to have a tool like ISBAR to use as a reminder of various aspects of the patient care that you need to cover. Obviously, you have to be as succinct as possible. Some patients have volumes and volumes of history and you can't hand over for hours, but you need to ensure that you are handing over the important information and not missing anything critical. As well as following the ISBAR tool, I also organise my notes in a particular way so I know where everything is and I can find it if I need to. Also, if there's a particular way that you always follow, you'll be less likely to forget something pertinent. Another little trick I use is to think about what information you would need to know if you were receiving that particular patient, and that can also help you to establish what is the essential information that you need to pass on. In conclusion, I would just mainly like to highlight that improving your clinical handover is a real opportunity to have a positive impact and improve patient safety and prevent adverse events. The ISBAR handover tool can be adapted for use in any clinical setting and provides a standardized structure for handover, streamlining the process and improving patient safety. Well, that concludes the session. Thank you very much for your time and happy handing over. Just to very lastly finish up, I have here a slide with some references and recommendations for further reading. Thank you.